Finally, my people, after 27 years, somebody has been indicted for the murder of Tupac Amaru Shakur. Tupac Amaru Shakur was born on June 16, 1976 in New York, and he was shot dead in Las Vegas on September 13, 1996. And after 27 years, when he was shot down in Las Vegas, there is somebody out there in America who is a billionaire right now. He should be a worried man because rumors are going around he played a part in Tupac's murder. And this person is P Diddy. Those days used to call himself Puff Daddy, but nowadays they call himself P Diddy. P Diddy is the CEO of Bad Boys Records, and he must be a worried man right now. And before we go back to P Diddy, let's start again. Who is Tupac? Tupac Amaru Shakur was born in New York City on June 16, 1976. From there, they moved to Baltimore with his single mom. From Baltimore, they moved to the West Coast. It was at the West Coast that Tupac Amaru Shakur started his career. And by the time he died, he was shot dead. He had already sold 75 million music copies and acted in a lot of movies. I mean, he was a star by that time when he died. How Tupac came into connection back to New York City, to the rappers in New York City, P Diddy and everything, it started like this. Biggie, who was by that time was being managed by P Diddy, and P Diddy was the CEO of Bad Boys Music, and B.I.G. was under Bad Boys Music. So B.I.G. went to the West Coast to go one day, and he met a dealer. And when he met this dealer, he asked this leader if this dealer can connect him with Tupac Amaru Shakur. That was back in 1993. So this dealer did it, and he connected these two guys, and they became very good friends because Tupac was originally from New York, and Biggie was a rapper from New York by that time. So they became very good friends that Tupac was visiting Biggie in New York City, and Biggie would come to LA. And there was a time also that it is said that Biggie even asked Tupac if he can manage him. But Tupac refused and said, just stay with Puff Daddy. By that time, Puff Daddy in Bad Boys record, he's gonna make you a star. He told him he's gonna make you a star, just stay over there. That's where the connection of Tupac with East Coast started again. So Tupac would visit Biggie in New York, and Biggie would visit Tupac in Los Angeles. So there was a time Tupac went to New York, and he was in a studio, and he left the studio. And when he was leaving the studio, Tupac was shot 5 times with people he suspected it was a set up by Biggie and Bad Boys record. For what reason, nobody knows up to now, but Tupac believed that it was a setup. That's why he was shot 5 times. And Tupac survived this thing. And after surviving this thing, immediately was arrested again for rape charges because a woman had accused him for trying to rape her. And Tupac was arrested again and taken to prison. And by the time he was in prison, he was given a bail for $1 million, and Tupac couldn't raise that money. So it opened up an opportunity for the CEO of Death Row Records, Suge Knight. Because Suge Knight had just started this Death Row Records, had signed Dr. Dre as the main producer, and they were looking for a very good artist who can blow up this Death Row Records. And the only artist they thought of was Tupac, and by that time Tupac was sitting in jail. And he couldn't raise up this $1 million. So Suge Knight went to the prison and told Tupac, come on, listen, my friend, listen, my nigga. I'm going to take you out of this prison, but you have to do me one thing. You have to sign for Death Row Records, and I want you to produce for me 3 albums, and I'm going to pay for you this $1 million, and you sign for Death Row Records for this time. And Tupac agreed because he wanted to get out of prison. This is normal. Somebody, if you're sitting in prison, somebody comes, come on, man, I'll pay you a bail, but you have to do this and this and think for me. Tupac agreed, and he signed for Death Row and produced 3 albums. The first album was All Eyes on Me, which was a double record, a double album, which means it was already 2 albums. And then the second album was this Don Machiavelli. So Tupac did the 3 records, 3 albums. He had already fulfilled his contract to Death Row Records. So immediately after releasing these albums, Tupac released another hit, which was called, because he was not finished with the shooting that happened to him in New York, he was still thinking about it. How can this guy who was my friend set me up and me get shot 5 times? So Tupac went to the studio and released this hit, Hit Them Up. In this track, it was all about dissing Puff Daddy, who is nowadays called P Diddy. It was all about dissing Puff Daddy. It was all about dissing Notorious B.I.G. It was all about dissing all those people who are signed to Bad Boys record. This included Junior Mafia and everything. Hit Them Up is considered as one of the most hitting diss records. I mean, because there was a part even he rapped that Biggie, you claim to be a player, but your wife, you know what I mean? And it was really disrespectful. It was also the most disrespectful diss track ever. So this thing, Diddy didn't like it. He didn't like this thing. I mean, he thought this person has just come out from prison and is now dissing my whole crew, including me. So Diddy ordered the Crips in Los Angeles, which the boss by that time was Duane Davis, the guy who has been arrested right now for killing Tupac. If any one of them can go and grab a chain from one of the artists of Death Row, he's gonna pay him up. And that's exactly what they did. They didn't grab that chain from Tupac, they grabbed from another member of Death Row. The man grabbing my chain and taking it out of me or just ripping me off my cap. Those are the two most disrespecting things in a gangster life. So they did it, and on the other side, after doing this thing, Death Row was not happy. So they were looking also for revenge. So there was a time there was a boxing match in Las Vegas, and Mike Tyson was fighting another fighter, I can't remember the name, and it was in MGM Grand Hotel. They went there, Tupac went there, and Crips of Compton also went there with the Duane Davis as the leader. They were also there. So when Tupac and Sergeant were walking on the hallway, they met this guy who was one of the members of these Crips. Yeah, his name is Orlando, and this guy was a nephew to the boss, Duane Davis, who has been arrested right now. So they started to beat him up. They grabbed everything, his chain and everything. They kicked him, and this thing is on video.
Just 3 days after the awards, Tupac and others attack an LA gang member in a hotel lobby after a Mike Tyson fight in Las Vegas. Believed to be in response to an earlier assault against someone affiliated with Death Row, the attack will land Death Row head Suge Knight in jail, and according to some police reports, lead to Tupac being shot less than 3 hours later.
If you Google everything, you'll see it. Yeah, they beat him up and everything. After that this guy went to his uncle, who was the boss of these Crips, and told him, come, and this guy beat me up, they took out my chains, and that's where the real beef started. This guy said, no, if Tupac can do this, we are going to finish him up. And even before it is said that Diddy offered these guys money to finish up Tupac, yeah? But now that they had an opportunity to do it with a revenge and get the money too. So they went to a club to look for Tupac and Suge Knight. They went to a club in Las Vegas. The club is called 666, something like that. They went there, but even though Tupac and Suge Knight also wanted to go to this after party show in this club, they were not there. So these guys came out because Tupac and Suge Knight was not there. So they came out and they started to search out for Tupac and Suge Knight in the whole city of Las Vegas. They were just riding along the streets trying to, if they can get a catch of Tupac and Suge Knight. So all of a sudden, they passed a car where somebody was standing, and ladies were there, were shouting, oh, Tupac, just like Tupac, you know, just like politicians in Kenya come out of the car and they wave to the people. That's the way Tupac was standing, and that's where they came to know, this is Tupac, and he's sitting in this car, and they made a U-turn. After making a U-turn, they came back. After making a U-turn, they came back and they saw it was Tupac. And that guy, Orlando, said, yeah, this is one of the guys who kicked me there on the hallway. So they waited when the car started moving out of the crowd, because they couldn't do it when the crowd was there. They waited when the car was moving out of the crowd. So when they were moving, they stopped at a certain traffic light. And that's where guns started to fire. Bang, 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 bang. Yeah. And Tupac was shot 4 times. After being shot 4 times, Tupac, well, he didn't die immediately. He was taken to a hospital, and after He died, I think, after 4 days. And people were believing Tupac is going to survive. He was shot 5 times in New York, he survived. And this time again, when he was in the hospital, people were believing that Tupac is going to survive that thing. But this time, he didn't survive. So there were a lot of controversial stories that Tupac didn't die. I mean, he moved to Cuba and another body was replaced there. Some people were saying Shaqmatic did it. But how can you? But I don't think Shaqmatic did it, because how can you do it? Yeah, how can you order for people to kill somebody and you're sitting in the same car and the bullet just crushed you on the head, you know? That's why I don't think Shaqmatic did it. It was something that these Orlando Crips did it. And it is something, it's on record. It's on record. Hear this.
So you guys are driving around, and then you hear these girls say, Tupac, Tupac. Someone from your car started shooting at Tupac and Suge.
Lane starts blasting. You say Suge looks over, he sees you. He looks right at you?
Yeah, he looks at me.
Okay. When he looks over at you, and then, Tupac's busy getting shot. Evidently, the story is Tupac's trying to either get out of the
back seat or something.
Yeah, what do you see happening inside of their car?
I seen a bullet going Suge's head. I thought he was dead.
So Orlando shot across Dre?
He leaned over on the window. We rolled down the window, popped.
Who was it?
They would drove on my side. I would have popped them. You know what I'm saying? But they was on the other side.
Right.
I'm not going to go into details on that one. Keep the streets on me.
It's on record that Duane Davis confessed once that they did it. Yeah, he didn't go into real details, but he said it. He said that this guy, that he was in the car and the bullet and the shots were fired from the backseat, and he was asked who did it. He said, "I'm gonna state with the rules of the streets, the shots came from the backseat. That's it." Yeah, even Tupac's nephew, stepbrother, after arrest said, "Why after 27 years? This guy has been confessing all this time, but you haven't done it. Why this time? Why this time?" And people are saying that maybe there were police detectives who are under FBI, who are under payroll from somebody, who at last refused to pay. And after refusing to pay, they say, okay, we are going on with the investigation, we are going to arrest. Because after 27 years, this guy was confessing. No arrest, nothing was being done. Nothing was being done. Back in 2018, 2019, this guy wrote a book, Keffe D. He wrote a book, and that book is called Campton Street Legend. And in that book, he confessed that he was in the car. He was in the car where the bullets were coming out. Now, that's why the investigation now is raising eyebrows, because why did the cops react at that time? And even he confessed in an interview with Vlad TV. He confessed all these things long time ago, but the cops were doing nothing. Why now? That's why it's raising eyebrows right now. Yeah? But after 27 years, they come and arrest somebody and say, this is the guy who shot Tupac. Yeah? But this 27 years, this guy was confessing, nobody was going after him. And that's why people are thinking there were detectives who were under payroll. Yeah? Na pesa kikatika, they go after it now. Now, you don't pay us, now we are going to go after it. And that's why people are saying P Diddy must be in problem right now, because if these people were under a payroll, who was paying them? I mean, Duane Davis or Keffe D doesn't have that money to have these big people under payroll. There must be somebody who was having very good money, who was keeping these people to forget about the investigations. And now, that's why I say P Diddy is under problem. Because, look, even if you go there was a time this Machine Gun Kelly released a song, and in the song, there's he was dissing Eminem. Machine Gun Kelly is under the contract Bad Boys record, P Diddy. So he was releasing a song dissing Eminem, and then Eminem hit back. And when he hit back, Eminem mentioned P Diddy and Tupac. If you go and you'll see there why. Eminem mentioned. Why would Eminem mention that? Eminem mentioned it. Why would Eminem mention that? Because there must be something that P Diddy did, yeah, paid or hired or did anything to Tupac, and this is something that is making him right now a worried man. And if he did it, then he deserves to sit in the jail. He can't be sitting, not only this guy should be sitting, because if you hire a man to kill somebody, it's already you are participating in a murder, and he must be a worried man. And now Suge Knight came out and said he's not going to testify against Keffe D. And the cops are on the wrong track. But what else should he say? Because you have to keep the street rules. The street rules is you don't have to snitch on somebody. If you snitch on somebody, you won't be accepted back in the community. That's the kind of one of the street rules that it is in gangster life in America. You don't snitch. And that's why he doesn't want to testify. That's why if you go in ghettos, people are getting shot, somebody sees, but they won't talk about it because they don't want to snitch. If you snitch, you are not accepted back in the community. It doesn't matter because Suge Knight himself, he almost died in that situation. But keep with the street rules, never snitch on somebody. And that's what he's doing right now. Because I don't think the cops are on the wrong track. I think the cops are on the right track because this guy said it very many times that he was in the car where the shots were fired. This is the only thing, my people. I thank you so much for listening to these things. So take care. Ciao. This is Shaqmatic. I love you guys. Culture 808.